Hi, Matt Noyes. Good to be with you Wednesday morning. Got a lot for you. It's an expanded edition of 1 degree outside today just because there is so much going on in the weather. But as usual, I'll get you started out with the quick points if you just want to take away Noyes' notes. Here's the bottom line. We've got three big impacts going on in the next 24 hours. You've got heat, you've got storms, and you've got flash flooding that comes from those storms as well. Passing downpours from barrel moisture is what we're dealing with over the course of the next 24 hours. But really, you'll be dealing with some of these showers and downpours kind of passing through all the way through Friday. And then Saturday, we're still watching some Atlantic moisture that will probably give us some rain in the beginning to middle part of the day on Saturday. Again, for details on all this, I'm diving in right now. If you're watching on our homepage or on YouTube, if you're watching on social media, click the link or go to our homepage to see the full 24-hour forecast with details on possible tornadoes and the flash flooding. Let's dive right in. Here's what's going on for us. We'll start out with the heat stress for you, and you can see it's a major heat impact across a lot of southern and central New England, running out through much of upstate New York, down into the mid-Atlantic for that matter as well. Pockets of extreme heat impact, and what this means is it's got a real impact on the body, so staying hydrated, very important. A big part of that is the dew point is up so high. It's really tropical air. That also, by the way, is what's going to fuel the real heavy downpours in some of these storms today. We're going to talk about all of that here. In terms of that heat impact, we think that the heat index today comes to or over 100 degrees, not just in the Pioneer Valley and lower Connecticut River Valley or in southeast New York or the Hudson River Valley, but also around the Boston Metro. We do it with a southwest wind, and that really negates any impact to the ocean. And that's why your heat index ends up around or over 100. But here's the other part of it. Severe weather certainly comes into play. The Storms Prediction Center in Norman, Oklahoma has highlighted the Northeast for an increased chance of severe weather. Scattered severe storms in orange, isolated to a few storms when you get into the green and the yellow, and that does include a lot of New England and especially upstate New York. What's interesting to me out of this is the remnant of Beryl, which did cause some tornadoes over the past couple of days. It's moved across the country yesterday, particularly in Indiana, and now as it comes through the Northeast, that yellow you see is actually a 10% chance of a tornado within 25 miles of any given point in that zone. You've got a 5% chance of a tornado within 25 miles of any given point from western Mass, running into central and southern Vermont, western New Hampshire, and then a 2% chance for a lot of the remainder of New England. So we are on guard for severe weather today. A reminder that if you get a severe thunderstorm watch or a tornado watch, conditions are favorable for those storms to develop. But if you get a warning, that means it appears imminent. That's when you need to take immediate action. Please do download our app so you can get all the latest notifications as they come in. Then there's a flash flood threat. There's a lot of moisture in the atmosphere. We looked at the dew point, right? So that means that we've got actually a moderate chance of flash flooding, which means probably there will be more than one report when you get across these areas of northern Vermont, northwest New Hampshire, with a low risk for a lot of the remainder of the northern half of New England. In terms of the timing, there's not a lot that goes on the first part of the day. Once we start getting out toward the middle of the day, you start to see some of these showers, downpours, and thunderstorms developing out of New York State and northern Vermont. Notice by 3 p.m. more of that starts to take over. The farther south and east you go, the more isolated the action is. There really is not a lot of action to speak of at all today in much of southern and eastern portions of New England. But we get more of these storms by late day and evening. Here's the map at 6 p.m. with a timestamp in the upper right. And then finally, by the time we get deeper into the evening, into the night tonight, that's when we really come under the gun in a lot of northern and central Vermont, far northern New Hampshire, and northern Maine for that matter as well. Total average amounts of rain expected to be somewhere around 1.5 to 2 inches. But worth showing you, and I mentioned this the last couple of days, our exclusive in-house guidance, which we haven't worked into our graphic system yet, but this is the image that we're producing out of it. If you look over northern Vermont, some of those deeper reds are lining up with over 5 inches of rain in that legend on the right side. So that's part of the concern, is that when you get into central and northern Vermont, northern New Hampshire, Grafton County, running all the way up to Coos County, there is the chance that we end up with some localized amounts in excess of 4 or 5 inches, and that certainly would cause some of the flash flood problems. Again, in a lot of southern New England, you're talking about temperatures today coming up to about 90, that heat index that goes over 100, but you're not talking about a big storm day in a lot of southern New England today at all. We look together at the fact that, in fact, many of us escaped throughout the entirety of the day without much to speak of. Then we saw those isolated storms that develop in central and southern New Hampshire during the later day, and again, the farther north you go, the greater the chance of storms later in the day. As you might figure, the cooler the temperature will be, although the humidity humidity is still certainly very high for a lot of us in northern New England. It's just the fact that the clouds are in place a bit more, and that certainly limits just how hot you'll get. Finally, if you're watching us from eastern Maine or far northern Maine, you do deal with stuff this evening in northern Maine. A lot of the day, though, you're just waiting on the showers to come in, and the Canadian provinces are hot again today, at least as the provinces go, but also staying dry compared to the rest of us. Overnight tonight, there will be some passing scattered showers and downpours that come through southern New England during the overnight period. Notice how muggy and mild we stay all night long. And again, it's the flash flooding spots that continue across the North Country of New England. A reminder, our app is the best way to stay on top of all this. Pretty easy to search now in both the App Store and Google Play. If you just type in Noyes for Noyes' 1 degree outside weather, you'll be able to get all the details you need and get the alerts. I always recommend in the radar tab, the past plus future mode, because you can see where the storms have been, where they are, and where they're projected to go. That's how things are looking for now. Stay safe. Remember, if you experience any flash flooding, the biggest thing is not to drive through those floodwaters, right? As for severe storms, the biggest thing is to be ready to take shelter in case warnings are issued in the timeframes that we've looked at. Have a great day, and we'll see you with more over on our website, onedegreeoutside.com.